Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Planning and Heritage Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Any declarations of conflicts today? Seeing none, can I have an approval of the agenda? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by His Worship. And an adoption of the minutes from our September 3rd meeting. Okay, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by His Worship. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we can move right on to our reports and discussions, and we have three for
Madam
today.
Chair, sorry,
Yes,
before you proceed, we are to adopt the other set of minutes as well. They were placed in there because there was a change requested. July 2nd, was it, Jason? Those set of minutes, sorry.
okay. It's not on the agenda, so I wasn't aware of that. So can I have an adoption of the minutes from the July 2nd meeting? Yep, moved by Councillor McCabe and seconded by His Worship. Okay, any business arising from those minutes? Okay, seeing none, now we can move on to our reports and discussions. We'll start with A. It's a response to a notice of motion brought on September 10th, 2024 by Councillor Tweel, prioritizing resident input in new developments in the city of Charlottetown. And I assume, Donna, you'll take that one? Oh, okay. Deegan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my report is to provide an overview of prioritizing resident input process for new developments in the city of Charlottetown. At the council meeting held on September 10, 2024, a notice of motion was introduced to prioritize residents' input in local development decisions. The motion specifically emphasized ensuring that the concerns of residents living within 100 meters of any proposed development or project are given priority over those from the outside of the immediate area. The City of Charlottetown currently follows a structured procedure for collecting and prioritizing public feedback on development activities. As outlined in Section 3.10.4A of Zoning and Development Bylaw, written notice must be provided to all affected property owners within 100 meters of the subject lot. This notification is sent via regular mail at least 7 calendar days prior to the public meeting and includes the subject lot's identification, a description of the zoning application, and the deadline for submitting written objections. Additionally, public notices are required to be published in at least 2 local newspapers, with the first notice appearing at least 7 days before the public hearing. A copy of the notice must also be posted in a visible location on the subject lot at least 7 days before the meeting. By notifying residents within this 100-meter radius, the city ensures that their feedback is not only acknowledged but also incorporated into decision-making process. Their input is outlined in the reports presented to the planning board before making any recommendations. This process reflects City of Charlottetown's commitment to serving the public interest and valuing community input in development decisions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I see the staff recommendation is that council receive this report as a response to the notice of motion brought forward on September 10th. So what is the action item from that? Like, what's the recommendation from what Councillor Tweel was asking?
So as Deegan outlined in his report, Madam Chair, these considerations are already taken into account when we consider any developments. So as he outlined there, that was taken from the Zoning and Development Bylaw, and it is a requirement that anyone that falls within 100 meters of any affected property or development be notified accordingly. So they are taken into consideration. So this is just to provide Councillor Tweel and members of council with just the clarification that this is already done in the process.
Okay, so this would move on to council for information only.
Yes, Madam Chair.
So there's no more action from this is a file that's completed.
Unless there are other requests coming out of this response. So if someone else wants a follow-up on anything that's provided here today, then we will provide that.
Gotcha. Any questions, Councillor McCabe?
I think to provide an overview of prioritizing resident input process for new developments in the city of Charlottetown, was he questioning the 100 meters, or was he questioning that people outside those 100 meters have time to come and give their thoughts and inputs? I think I understood that he was more wondering, and that might be a clarification to get from Councillor Tweel, but that people outside, we have people that'll come to our public planning meetings that wouldn't necessarily be within the 100 meters. And was he looking for that to be stopped, or I'm just trying to understand what he was looking for.
It was from my understanding that that's more where he was going with it, was that really anybody from anywhere, even outside of PEI, could come to a meeting and offer their pros and cons to it. And so he was, I think, looking for, why is that like that? And can it be that, when new development happens, that you prioritize the area, but it's probably in the Planning Act that that just can't be. So I didn't see anything in Deegan, your report, to outline that, to kind of zero in on that part of it as well, because that's where Councillor Tweel was asking, was that, that we couldn't do that even if we wanted to, because it goes against the Planning Act.
I think that would be really helpful in the information report so that it was more clear.
So, Madam Chair, maybe through Donna. Donna, I thought our CAO, along with signatures from the business community, from other municipalities, requested the government to look at that 100-meter area. Could you clarify that, please? Is that all right, Madam Chair?
Through you, Madam Chair, to your worship, yes. A correspondence was sent to the province to update the Planning Act to reflect what you just suggested. It also went a little bit further to consider appeals as well, because this was holding up developments within the city. And we haven't gotten further in terms of the decision that the province will make on this, but we have made representation to have this changed.
Right, and Madam Chair, just to follow up on that, through the chair to Donna, again, I think that appeals process went beyond the 100 meters, because there were residents of Prince Edward Island appealing decisions in other jurisdictions, which, as Donna said, was slowing down the process. So, Donna, could you incorporate that correspondence with this information going on to council to address what Councillor Tweel has asked? Because, again, if we continue to slow down development, they will go elsewhere. Because, as you know, there's a lot of backlog at the department because of the number of applications. But let's try to work with anyone that wants to develop our jurisdiction, the city of Charlottetown, whether it's an NGO, private development, or it's government development, like 470 Malpeque Road. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that, you'll add to that report before it goes on to council?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will
Wonderful.
update it.
Great. And then it doesn't need to come back here, it then can just move right on to council. You don't
Yeah.
need a resolution for that since
No.
it's information only. Great. Okay, perfect. All right, we can move on to the next item, which is a response to a notice of motion brought on July 9th, 2024 by Councillor Tweel, renegotiation of the Housing Accelerator Fund Initiative 8. Is that Deegan or Donna? Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide a update or response to a notice of motion that was brought forward to council on July 9th, 2024, brought forward by Councillor Tweel to amend Initiative 8 of the city's Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. Now, as outlined in Schedule A of the city's signed Housing Accelerator Fund Contribution Agreement, Initiative 8 aims to allow up to 4 units per existing lot, with a focus on increasing density around key institutions, including the University of Prince Edward Island, UPEI, Holland College, and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The initiative supports the development of 4-story buildings within an 800-meter radius of the UPI, Holland College, and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital campuses, with 6-story buildings permitted along designated corridors and nodes. This densification initiative will be implemented as appropriate across the city and through a public consultation process. Additionally, the HAF contribution agreement, particularly Section 5.5, stipulates that if HAF funding is used for a project on federal lands as defined under the Impact Assessment Act, the city must notify the CMHC in writing. And in fact, the experimental farm is federal lands. Therefore, there is no need to renegotiate Initiative 8 to ensure densification does not extend to the experimental farm, as there are already stipulations built into the original agreement to guarantee this doesn't happen without further consultation with the CMHC, which would also require approval from council. Given the foregoing, staff recommends that council receives this report as a response to the notice of motion brought forward on July 9th, 2024. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
So again, like the last report, your recommendation is just to receive it and no other action required?
Again, Madam Chair, if the councillor who brought forward the motion feels like he needs additional information, then we will provide it. Also, if there are other members of council who wants any additional information, we are happy to provide it as well.
Any other questions on this one?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Your Worship.
So, Madam Chair, experimental farm is not a new area of proposed development. I was on this council when we were looking at building the Kerry facility on the experimental farm, bordering on to Belvedere Avenue. But the response from the public, not just from Charlottetown, not just from that area, but all over, 4,500 signatures showed up here at council to say, don't put it there. So it went to UPEI. So UPEI, Kerry facility, now the Bell Alliance Center. And Donna, as you know, experimental farm is currently under the responsibility of the Department of Agriculture federally. So if you know the federal process, it's not short and sweet. It's a long, drawn-out process. And Madam Chair, about 10 years ago, maybe 14 years ago, Oldnaway Mi'kmaq Confederacy, we're working with the federal government, we're working with the city and the province to do some development on that experimental farm. And speaking to someone from Mi'kmaq Confederacy today, shortly after the treaty event that was held today, he said that it just fell apart because the city didn't want to do anything about it. My point is, Madam Chair, if we want to do anything with that land, it's a long, drawn-out process. And it, first and foremost, must require Indigenous, First Nations input, discussion, and a duty to consult. So Initiative 8, it may be there, but to make that change, as Donna said, would require a lot of steps to follow through in this process. And then there's also the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation process. So I've already said to CBC when this was brought up by a councillor from the area that the city was going to develop that area. No, it's not happening. There are many other areas in and around the University of Prince Edward Island, Holland College, and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital that could provide development as of right 4 stories to start. So again, this is another clarification that I'm sure that you can explain at council, or you have the expertise of Donna, and I have my own background experience, and so does the council from the area, because he was involved in the Kerry discussion back in early 2000 and the discussion back in 2010 or 2014 on Olney Way and Mi'kmaq Confederacy proposing some development, I think on the northeast corner of that property, which would be the corner of Belvedere Avenue and Mount Edward Road.
Great. Thank you very much. Anybody else? If not, we can move on to our third item on the agenda. And that is response to notice of motion brought on September 10th by me, Deputy Mayor Alana Yankoff, considerations to expand permit fee waivers for social impact projects. Over to Deegan. Your light's on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this report is an overview of current fee waiver programs in the city of Charlottetown and considerations for expanding permit fee waivers for social impact projects. The city of Charlottetown's Planning and Heritage Department has received a request from council to consider waiving permit fee for projects undertaken by non-profits, volunteer groups, and organizations addressing community needs, food security, and other social issues. Currently, the Planning and Heritage Department charges a range of fees based on project specifics, as outlined in Attachment A, Schedule of Permit Fees. However, under the City of Charlottetown's Affordable Housing Incentive Program, the department offers 50% rebate or partial rebate on building and development permit fees for affordable housing projects. To informal potential policy development, the Planning and Heritage Department conducted a jurisdictional scan of 17 municipalities across Canada, as mentioned in Attachment B, identifying various fee waivers provided through the bylaws, policies, and incentive programs. Notably, the Municipal District of Bonneville, Alberta has implemented a similar initiative offering a permit fee waivers for non-profit organizations engaged in developments that support community well-being and address social needs. Based on this research, the Planning and Heritage Department proposes creating a designated fee waiver policy for projects addressing community needs and social issues. The department seeks the committee's approval to proceed with the development of this new policy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. Any questions? Okay.
Looks good. So any applications that were looked at before, is this retroactive, or is it, I want to just clarify, Madam Chair, that.
I guess we're still at just the council, this will go on to council to accept this report as the initial response to the notice of motion brought by me on September 10th, and then afford the staff the additional time to assess the city's existing fee structure and create a policy. So back to his worship, will people, if this policy gets created, will
It'd be retroactive.
it be retroactive? Can people, past projects apply, or does it going forward?
Through you, Madam Chair, to your worship. So it depends on what council decides. They can decide that the fees can be retroactive, and they also can decide that only for certain developments, the fees would be retroactive. So it all comes down to council and what they decide.
Maybe it could be retroactive up to,
A period.
1
It
year
could be,
or
yeah.
whatever, something like that. No, yeah. So then you just need a recommendation from this committee to accept your recommendation to move on to council. Moved by Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I just was, right before we move it on, and I can wait till you move it, but I'm just looking, because I'm seeing all the cities you looked at. That'll be a combination of that somewhere coming back to us to look at, correct?
So this jurisdictional scan was done for us to see which one would be most appropriate to
Right.
apply to the
Okay.
city. And that's why that's there. So a combination of aspects from all of these will be brought into the policy that will be developed.
Wonderful. So there'll be opportunity, okay, yeah.
Moved by Councillor McCabe and seconded by his worship to move this on to council.
And just resolution on the floor. So Donna, the other course of action where we have NGOs or, let's say, the provincial government that has a social impact project that they want to put forward, there are opportunities for these individuals or organizations to apply to finance for a grant. So that's another option if they can't get it through the proposal that you're suggesting or recommending today.
So through you, Madam Chair, to your worship. So when we're doing the policy, we'll do a set of definitions that will outline who would be qualified under the policy to get a permit waiver.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that. Okay, introduction of new business.
I'm just going to add this again. A couple of weeks ago, or I might have been, I was looking through the minutes from our Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee meeting. I brought up the issue of the Samuel Martin, who was the founder of the Bog, and the bridge that connected Brighton Road to Euston Street. I'm just wondering if we could look at getting some research on that, because I think it's probably by the end of the month, Matthew McRae will be removing all the Black History placards from the Beaconsfield lawn. And if he's moving them, we should put them in storage, maybe look at something down the road, if that could be brought up. And Madam Chair, I just wanted to bring that up. And the other issue, Donna, through the chair, is something that was it was a letter to the editor regarding the community fridge. Just wanted to see if you could look into this, if it's all right. It's, the gentleman's name is Bob McLean from Elmvale, Ontario. I was wondering if Charlottetown City Council has ever heard of special dispensation in regards to the community fridge in Valley Street. Could I just ask you to look into that? Is that all right? Again, it's just a notice, not a motion, just a notice to follow up.
Sure.
Through
Okay,
you, Madam Chair, to your worship. So just to ensure that I'm clear, you want to get a report on the Samuel Martin issue. So the whole issue of how the bog came about, how, could you just?
Yeah, to give it a little more context, there is a lot of history out there, Donna. But Sam Martin, very easy to Google, his role in the bog is that he was arrived here about 1810. And his influence in the Black community of Charlottetown was quite significant. So that's why if we could work through Natalie Munn or Todd Saunders to get that information together, and it could be something this standing committee could look at developing, or it could go to another standing committee. But I think it's a worthwhile initiative to look into, and if we can get the history, we can also provide something that recognizes Samuel Martin and his contribution to the Black community here in Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island. I think that's a part of our history that I'd like to bring to the forefront, because we do have a very strong BIPOC organization, and I'm sure that they would be more than willing to participate in going forward on this project. Is that all right? Thanks.
that sounds great. Thank you, Your Worship. Any other introduction of new business?
Deputy Mayor, not new business, but I should have brought it up under minutes arising from the minutes, because it goes, I'm going back to the drainage plan idea that we had talked about at our last meeting with what they do in Moncton, where it requires that the developer actually follows the plan, and that they talked about possibly having to rehire staff or whatever to be accountable for that. I don't want that to go away. I really think coming into our budget time and stuff, that is a big thing within our city, and I would like to make sure that that stays on the forefront. So as we open up our zoning and development, that is not forgotten. Please and thank you.
Duly noted. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor McQuaid. Thank you very much.